Hello and welcome to Rahman Digital Production. Dear learners, in the previous lecture we started the decision making concept, and in this regard we did the first and the simple if statement along with the if else statement. In today's lecture we will learn how to use elif, which is the short form of else if with if statement. So, the third and the most widely used decision making statement is the if statement. First of all, we have to write the general syntax and we'll learn it. There will be a keyword if, and right after that, there will be an expression, and that expression will be evaluated, and I told you that it can either return us a true value or a false value. And note that there must be a colon at the end of if statement. If this statement or this expression is evaluated to be a true one, then the statement or group of statements indented inside the if statement will be executed. But by any mean, if this expression is not evaluated to be a true one, then it will go directly to the LF part, and this expression will be evaluated. If this expression is evaluated to be a true one, then this statement or a group of statement will be executed because they are indented inside the LF keyword. Similarly, if this expression is evaluated to be false one, then it will directly transfer the control to LF, the second one, and expression will be evaluated, and the statement or group of statement will be executed according to the condition. But by any means, if all the conditions are false, then it will directly go to the else part of this if statement, and the statement or a group of statements will be executed. Remember that else part, if there is, will always be executed if the conditions above are false. So let us, using this concept, find the roots of a quadratic equation. Now, quadratic equation is the most widely used equation in mathematics, and that is invented by a Muslim scientist, Muhammad bin Musa al-Khwarizmi. The general form of this equation is ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0, where a, b, and c are called the coefficients of quadratic equation. Remember that this is not called quadratic formula. Quadratic formula, which we will discuss in a moment, is used for the solution of this quadratic equation along with many other types of solution, just like simultaneous equation, by midterm breaks, and so many times. If you want to learn in greater detail, I have a course of mathematics for O level. Go there in my channel and see that as well, along with the physics as well. So these are the coefficient, and remember that b and c can be 0, but a will never be equal to 0. If it is 0, then it will not remain as a quadratic equation. So let us find the solution of quadratic equation through quadratic formula. That is what I was talking about, that x is equal to minus b plus minus under the root b square minus 4ac whole divided by 2a is a quadratic formula, not quadratic equation. Ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0 is a quadratic equation, but that is the solution. We can find the two roots, that is x1 will be taken because here you can see that one is positive and one is negative. So the first one we are taking with the positive one, and that will be x1, and the second one we are taking with the negative one, and that will be equal to what? That will be equal to root number 2. One very important thing is there, and that is here b square minus 4ac is given a very distinct name, and that is discriminant. Based on the evaluation of discriminant, we can determine that what sort of two roots we will find. Let us talk about that as well before going to the IDE. Possible roots of quadratic equations are three. It can be positive, means that discriminant can give you a positive value, 0, or a negative, and this determines how many solutions there are to the given quadratic equation. The first one is a positive discriminant, and that indicates that the quadratic has two distinct real number solution. What does it mean? It means that the two solution, that is root 1 and root 2, we are finding that will be different from each other, and those will be a real part, real numbers. For example, if 1 is 5, root 1 is 5, so the root 2 will be different from 5. It can never be the same. When the discriminant is greater than 0 means it's positive. So the second scenario is the discriminant is 0. If we are giving values and the discriminant is evaluated to be 0, then it means that we will have a real number solution with the same two roots. They will be repeated. If one root is 5, the other will also be 5. If one root is 1, the second will also be 1. But if the discriminant is equal to 0, the third possible scenario is a negative value. So if a negative discriminant is obtained, so the solution will a complex number. Remember that complex number are formed from the two parts, that is the real part and imaginary part. So there will be imaginary part inside that solution. In the first two cases, that is the positive discriminant and the 0, the iota part, the imaginary part will be 0, and there will only be the imaginary part. Remember, complex number are of the form of a plus iota b. Iota indicates imaginary parts. So the solution will be imaginary number. Now we got the concept of quadratic equation, which is very important. Let's write a program to find the solution of quadratic equation. Now this is the program. Let's understand it. In the first line we are importing CMaths, which is complex math module, and we are using this particular module for square root. If you want to use square root, you must have CMath. So if we give a very closer look to the quadratic formula, there are three different variables with the name a, b, and c, as well as in the general form of quadratic equation, a x square plus b x plus c is equal to 0 also indicates a, b, c are the variables. So as a programmer, my first job is to take value of A, B, C from the user and stored it in A, B, C variable. Here I am saying input, enter a value for coefficient A other than 0. As I told you, it can never be 0, so you have to give a prompt to the user to enter a value other than 0. If you are giving the 0, you will not be able to see any root. So B value is enter, it can be 0, so I am not writing other than 0. Similarly, the case is with the C. Okay, my first job is completed. Now I have to calculate this discriminant. I took a variable dis and that is b star star 2. Double star is used is raised to the power in Python. So b star star 2 means b raised to the power 2 and it is included in parentheses. So it will be evaluated first. The priority of operations is that anything enclosed inside parentheses will be evaluated first, then there is a minus sign, and then I enclose the second part of that discriminant in the parentheses as well, that is 4 star A star C. Remember, dear learners, that you can never write 4AC without asterisk. That will be considered as a variable and will return you an error message that no such variable is declared. So after the evaluation on of this expression on the given values a, b, c, the way the result will be stored in discriminant, and then we are going to find the two roots minus b with plus square root of discriminant is this part and whole divided by 2 cross a. Similarly, root 2 is only having the distinction of minus from the first one. This is plus 1 and this is minus 1, and whatever result is evaluated, it will be stored inside root number 2. Similarly, we are now want to form the quadratic equation on the basis of these three values. So the user must have to understand that what is the quadratic equation, and then we will find the solution and the nature of the roots. So I am writing print and this backslash n is used for the next line. It will leave an empty line, and then according to the provided values the quadratic equation is now, and that is another form of printing the variable. You have to write it f here, and then in the double quotation if you are enclosing anything inside the braces, the computer compiler will consider it as a variable a, b, c, and x square will be printed as it is because it is not enclosed in braces. B will be printed. B means this value provided by the user, a means this value provided by the user, and C means this value provided by the user is equal to 0 will be printed as it is. So if I am giving 2 for A, so it will be 2x square, plus 3 for B, so it will be 3x, plus 4 for C, so it will be 4 is equal to 0, it will be printed. Now that important part is we have to check the discriminant nature. If discriminant is greater than 0, mean it is positive, then I will print two roots are real and distinct. Two roots are real, there will be no imaginary part, and that will be a real number. Imaginary part will be truncated. Similarly, if this condition is not true, it will go to the LF and it will check the second condition, discriminant is equal to 0. Remember, double equal is equal to the equal of mathematics. So if it is 0, then it will print because it is indented here. Print two roots found are the same and real. It will be repeated. If the first root is 5, the second root will also be 5. If the first root is 1, the second root will also be. So the roots will be the same. So if this is not true, then the third elif will be checked, and that is discriminant is less than 0. It means negative. So under root of negative number is equal to iota, because iota square is equal to -1, and taking square root on both sides, under root -1 is equal to iota. Okay, so the two roots are complex, and in this case you will see that the iota part will be there. In the first two cases, this one and this one, there will be a 0 of the imaginary part. So it means that is not imaginary. But in this case, there will be a value for imaginary part. So we will say the two roots are complex. Here print and the two roots, because there is f, so in special format it will be printed root 1 and root 2. Now let's go directly to the editor and find the solution and write a program. I explained the program and I exactly wrote it here. Let us see and check this program for three different sets of values, and then we will determine the nature of the roots. Let's go. So in first case it is saying that enter a value for coefficient, and in this case I am entering 2 and then -8 for the B and then 3 for the C value. First it is giving me that 2x square plus -8x plus 3 is the general form of quadratic equation. So when the discriminant is calculated according to the evaluated values, the two roots are real and distinct. There is 0 imaginary. J here in Python represents complex, and iota imaginary part. This is the real part and this is plus, and there is an imaginary part. Remember that complex number are of the forms of a plus iota b. Iota is imaginary part. So in this case imaginary is 0, so it means that there is no imaginary, and the two roots are 3.58 and 0.41. They are different, means they are distinct from each other. So why it is giving me in this decimal numbers? Because they are rational number. Rational numbers are those numbers which are written in the form of P over Q. Let us run this program for another set of values. This time I will give different values from the first one, and let us give first is 4 minus 4, and then I am giving 1 is the value. In this case you can see 4x square minus 4x plus 1 is the general form. Two roots found are the same and real. They will be the same. The two roots calculated are 0.5 and imaginary part is 0. So no imaginary. 0.5, again it is repeated. The first root is also 0.5 and the second root is also 0.5, and that is what I told you, that if discriminant is equal to 0, the two roots calculated will be repeated or the same. You can see that. So This time I will check the value 1 for A, 4 for B, and 5 for C. And you can see that 1x square plus 4x plus 5 is equal to 2 roots are complex. Yes, according to this third condition is discriminant is less than 0, then the two roots are complex, and exactly it is printed here that the two roots are complex. What are those two roots? That is 1j and minus 1j. It means it is not 0, so it is complex, and that is the imaginary part of this. So that was the whole story about this. If you haven't yet subscribed my channel, please subscribe it and be the first one to receive my lecture when I upload it. Very soon I will start the course of SQL Server as well. So subscribe it if you haven't yet subscribed it. Thank you very much for your time. Allah Hafiz.